Welcome to Mandemic Mondays. It's the only podcast hosted by two best friends who have absolutely nothing in common except their first names. I'm Mandy Fabian.
I'm Mandy Kaplan. And we are the Mandys. And we review and debate and discuss the latest releases on Netflix or HBO or whatever we want. Really.
Whatever we feel like, damn
Whatever we feel like reviewing, we're going to review. And we also talk about other fun stuff, music, books, life, everything we're doing to stay sane.
During this crazy time we like to call
the Mandemic.
Oh, yeah. Feels good. I'm so excited to do this podcast this week. Very excited.
Lay it on me.
Because we watched on HBO Max No Sudden Move.
We did.
Directed by Steven Soderbergh.
So you watched the French version?
Yeah. Was it in English? Oh, no. Oh, that's why it didn't make sense.
Yeah.
Or did it not make sense in English too? So we watched, No Sudden Move. And correct me if I'm wrong.
I always will. Always. I can't wait. You're wrong. Let's just assume you're wrong and move on.
God damn, I opened myself up for that. So it was like a crime, supposed to be a suspenseful crime drama, maybe a bit of a whodunit or an unraveling of a situation. And it has Benicio del Toro and Don Cheadle and John Hamm and a bunch of other people. I'm blanking on everyone else.
David
but those
Harbour
are the main.
And Matt Damon.
Oh, yeah. And the guy from Succession. The guy from
Kieran Culkin.
Yeah. Kieran Culkin. Yeah. Who I'm real hot cold on sometimes. But so I had heard not great things about the film. Mm-hmm. So I watched it with a lens of like, okay. And boy, oh boy. I was interested. Mm-hmm. I have to tell you, I really was genuinely interested in this story, but I couldn't really tell what the story was.
Oh,
so
hallelujah.
that was a big bummer because this is, and I don't understand because I love Steven Soderbergh's directing, but he used this lens that made me feel like I had just taken an Ambien or something, and I've never taken Ambien.
It made everything look like you were looking through a peephole, right?
Yeah.
The sides were blurry and the center was coming at you. It was very awkward.
I was like putting my reading glasses on and off. I'm like, what's happening? Am I having a stroke?
I called it a fisheye.
I think that's probably what it was.
Okay.
And it's not, it wasn't offensive. Like there were moments when I was like, ooh, look how the trees are swirling in the background. Boy, you really focus on the character's face. But every time he moved the camera, which he did a lot. And there were times when I was like, you're moving the camera so much. And I get that you're trying to achieve something really visually cool, but like, not only do I not know what's going on because everyone's just saying names and I don't see the people and I don't know what's going on. I couldn't keep track of who was fucking over who and who was the big mob boss and what was the car thing and who the people. I couldn't keep track of any of it. And I couldn't hear them. There is a scene. I'm sorry, I'm just going in. Can I just go in? Because I'm really passionate about this one.
Apparently.
There is a scene. This was not the first scene that tipped me off that maybe this wasn't going to be a great movie. It's not that. But to the point of not understanding, there is a scene at 27:34 and it goes to about 27:54 where literally I paused it and I rewound it and I watched it again because I was like, I don't understand I could not understand one word the actor said. It's when the guy who is on The Office, he goes in with the secretary and he's talking with her and he's at the safe and he's freaking out.
Right.
And he's panicking and he's talking.
Okay.
But I'm like,
do you want Pete to play it?
Yes. Pete, play the clip.
He took it, Matt. That's what I was trying to tell you.
Why would Mel forward?
Why would Mel forward what?
Naismith. He moved on it anyway.
Anyway?
Oh, Paul.
What do you mean, anyway?
It's bad.
What?
It's bad.
Matt. What do you mean, Naismith?
I was like, oh, I really am having a stroke. First there's the lens, and now I can't understand a word of this dialogue. It's like giggly, I want to go back and watch it again. I may want to make it my ringtone because I thought it was so hysterically funny that I could not understand a word that actor said. So he'd be like,
David Harbour is the actor.
David Harbour. Right. Wait, was he on The Office?
Stranger Things.
Oh, okay. He reminds me a lot of the funny guy from The Office.
Rainn Wilson?
The guy who played the boss. Oh. He sort of fell into that job. He's super funny. I'll get that name.
Okay.
But like, it's funny because I saw him and I thought he was the guy from The Office. And then I was like, more funny people trying to do serious stuff because that's a theme for us. You know,
it became one last week officially. Yeah.
What I think is so funny is I did not even know until he said this one line that the guy who was doing the Jabba the Hutt impression was Brendan Fraser.
No, it's not. Sean Astin swallowed Brendan Fraser. And this was a performance by that combo. What happened to Brendan Fraser?
I don't know. That was so crazy. Literally, I was like, I did not recognize him. And then he said one line. It was kind of, it was like Rodney Dangerfield-ish.
Yeah.
And I was like, what is going on with this guy? And I was like, oh, holy shit, that's Brendan Fraser, who I thought was just going to show up later in the movie.
Yeah.
But it was him.
And I'm going to say his name again because I'm going to pronounce it correctly, but I'm not going to correct how you're pronouncing it. But Brendan Fraser was pretty bad in this movie. And so was everybody.
Brendan Fraser. I thought he was so good. And by the way, it's Foyer, not Foyer. Or do I do it?
Did I say
no,
Foyer?
Wait. No, I say Foyer. Oh. You said Foyer. And then also, what's the other one we do? What's the one that I always get wrong? Folks. Yeah. And with an L. Which is correct.
Brendan Fraser was so indicative of like all of the problems of this movie. Like it was all lost. It was all very cheesy and obvious and hard to follow. I felt like the actors didn't really understand what was happening. The script was just a mess. Just a mess. You never cared about anybody or anything.
I wanted to. You know what it felt like? It felt like a student film.
Yeah.
So weird. Like I was looking at the shots going, I would think this was like somebody's college because even these professional these are great actors.
Mm-hmm.
And I didn't get a sense that they were locked into the story or moving story forward. They were standing and saying lines.
Yeah.
And it was really weird. Although I got to tell you, Benicio del Toro, look, I love him as an actor, but with that first scene with him and the wife, it's so funny because I'm like, he just reads to me now as like a monster with no heart all the time.
He always read that way to me. I've never been a fan of his. He's so mumbly and lazy, and I've never been a fan of Benicio del Toro. And this is him at his laziest. He does nothing. He just stumbles through this movie, drinking
he really
heavily.
Does. Yeah, I wonder if that was real alcohol, like just to get through it.
Yeah.
If that was in his contract, to like, I'm going to slug brown liquor the whole time and you can't stop me. It's not a bad writer, actually, in a contract. We'll consider that for next podcast.
Okay. So I felt that it had promise. The movie starts with Cheadle and Del Toro and Culkin basically taking a family hostage.
Yeah.
And it was interesting, right? You know, the first 20 minutes or 25 minutes were interesting and they end with a shocking murder. And it was like, ooh, this has potential. And then it just, that was it. Like, I wish that would have been the last frame of the movie. From there, it was so confusing and convoluted. Everybody double-crossed, triple-crossed, quadruple-crossed. I wrote, oh, really? Everybody's double-crossing everybody? And then I changed it to triple crossing. By the end, I had sextuple crossing. I'm not lying. I typed out sextuple crossing.
You're not wrong. Yes, that's exactly right. My God, that's funny. You know what? One of my pet peeves happened in this movie at about 18 minutes. We're doing a role reversal now because I'm the one with all of the like, oh my God, I am going to write that clip down. This one made me bonkers. And I want to know if you noticed it too.
I want to know, do I sound like that? I wrote this clip down. Is that what I sound?
That's how you talk every time. Yeah.
Lord.
You bring out your little notebook and you're so superior about it. Mine are like on the back of a baby wipe. I got to write before the ink gets smudged.
You've like mementoed them all over your body and tattoos.
I have a Post-it stuck on my ass. I'll just bring it up. No, one of my pet peeves in a movie is like when a character says like, you know, oh, don't cry. And the other person is clearly not crying. I'm like, no. That's your job as a director to say, you know what? Maybe don't cry because she's not crying. Right. So there is a scene and you should play this clip because I want people to know that I am not crazy, or maybe my TV mix is bad and that's fine. Maybe I'm crazy, but from 1819 to 1844, you should play that because, let me explain why. He keeps saying, you keep that kid quiet. Keep her quiet.
I know.
By the way, not a peep from that child.
I know.
Barely a tiny little whimper. She's not even speaking. And
Her
he's like,
lip is trembling slightly and that's it. Yeah.
He's like, I told her to pipe down. I'm like, there's nothing going on, dude. You gotta, she's piped. Like, what are you?
I know.
Anyway, play the clip.
You and me are going to go get it. These guys are going to babysit.
What are you?
Everyone is going to be fine as long as we get what's in that safe by 10 a.m. Can you shut your fucking kid up?
She's a child.
I don't care. Keep it quiet.
Stay inside.
If you want her quiet, then let her go to her goddamn playroom. Jesus Christ.
Here.
Sorry.
Feisty.
Come on, right? Nobody noticed that?
Well, you did. I also
Maybe Soderbergh should have me as an assistant. I think he's going to want me after he hears all this.
Yes, the world needs you. There's also another trope, in a similar vein. The scene is at 2313 at the door. Pete, we're keeping you busy. Play it.
Hi, Dad.
Okay.
Everything's fine.
Mary.
No, I'll call you later, okay? Everything's fine. Had a fight and Pig's real upset and we're just gonna stay home and sort it out. So, I'm so very sorry about the bird feeder.
You sure?
Yeah, it's fine. I'm fine. Everyone's fine. It's fine. Seriously.
Okay.
I'll call you later. Okay? Bye.
Bye.
So if I came to your door and was like, hi, Mandy, just came to make sure everything's okay. And you had your little face squished in the crack of the door and you were like, everything's fine. Go away. Everything's fine. Everything's fine. I would know you were being held hostage and I would help. I would call the police.
Wow, you are a really good friend. First of all, I would never make you make that 25-minute drive if I was being held hostage. What a waste of a drive.
But like that conceit. Yeah, it's just a scene we've seen so many times. Somebody being held hostage and somebody walking away going, well, that was strange, but not doing anything to help. It's a trope.
Well, she called later. I mean, what are you supposed to do? Although back then they didn't have Netflix. You know what I mean? There was nothing for her to do. So she really should have been more on it. Would you have tried to blink help or something? Would you, if you were in that situation, what would you do?
The people can't see my face, but I'm going to do my face for you, right? I would go,
okay.
I'm fine. Everything's fine. And you would know from my subtle eye twitches and head shake. No, I'm not fine. Right?
I don't know. It depends on...
I'll see you tomorrow at the PTA meeting.
No, with you, it depends on what you had for dinner last night. You know what I mean? You could make that face if you just had a little bit of tummy agita. I wouldn't necessarily assume that you've been held hostage. What I love about that held hostage situation that I marked down is I love that they allow the wife to have a glass of orange juice and smoke a cigarette, lounging on the couch in beautiful lighting while they're holding her hostage.
Yep. Chain smoking cigarettes.
Yeah. I was like, well, that's interesting.
The cigarettes, before she's held hostage, she wakes up first thing in the morning and has a smoke in bed in her pajamas. And then there are shots of full ashtrays. And I was like, I felt like I smelled the movie, just like the dirty, weeks old, ashy, smoky ambiance of that house.
I thought you were going to say and it made me die to have a cigarette.
No, I can't imagine
it didn't.
Being indoors with people smoking.
Ugh, yeah, I know. That's why I love America.
More problems with no sudden move.
There were no sudden moves. It was also predictable.
I know. And when you have an ensemble cast and people are popping in and you're like, oh, look who it is. It's John Hamm playing an upstanding policeman. That'll probably just be all he does, right? No, of course we know he's going to be in on it and one of the bad guys. Of course, because he's John Hamm.
Yeah.
And there's no reason for him to take a role where he's like, I don't mean to bother you, ma'am. Just checking that everything's okay. Do. Not going to happen. So it's frustrating casting to cast John Hamm in that role, just waiting for him to turn and get nasty.
I was really out of it by the end. I mean, I was like trying to stay awake.
Sure.
It was like, I couldn't follow it. I love Don Cheadle and I love Matt Damon. They both, every time they were on the screen, I was like, ooh, what's going on? I really love both those actors. But I didn't even get the twist. I knew he was a bad guy, but I was like, I don't understand what's going on. He's bringing in the thing and he doesn't take any of the money.
Right.
And there's more money.
Right.
Like I didn't understand it at all. The most interesting part was the end of the movie when they list, hey, did you know this happened in the 1950s and it's real? I was like, well, thank you. That's at least something I wanted to learn about.
They were like, yeah, the catalytic converter became a thing in the 1970s. And I was like, this movie was about the catalytic converter?
I know.
It was so convoluted. It was, it just was, I agree. You couldn't keep track of anyone or anything. And the names, you mentioned it before, but they kept doing it like, who called you? Naismith? No, Watkins. Wait, Watkins called you? No, Steve. Like, you're like, who are these people? And then they would appear. They'd be like, let's go to Naismith's house. So you think Naismith is going to be a big time actor, and he wasn't. And neither was Watkins. If that, like, nothing paid off. And then one guy they never mentioned, they mention him, they go to him, and it's Matt Damon. And it's a big surprise, and he's uncredited, and he's got a big part. That's what we wanted through the whole movie, was that fun casting of people, right? If you're going to build up a character.
Well, and I thought he was one of the few people that really did something with the script that was very, I don't want to say Mammety because I like Mamet, but like very kind of, it had a certain rhythm to it that felt more like a Brechtian stage play. Like, I'm not going to give you information. I'm just going to pellet words at you. Or, you know, it was,
you, Brechtian.
Yeah, I'm going to go look up what that means later, but I heard somebody say it, and I think it means alienating. But not linear. You know, he was, it was.
Yeah. And that Ray Liotta, what range in this movie, people? Ray Liotta played, ready? A middle-aged mob boss with rage problems.
Yep.
A stunning performance turned in by Ray Liotta. You see how I'm saying one thing, but you can tell by my face that I mean I'm being held hostage?
Yeah. You're doing this on two levels really beautifully.
Thank you.
I disagree with you entirely because I feel like when I saw him, he was mad and then he got madder. So I'm gonna critique your critique of his performance because going from mad to madder isn't always, so easy for most folks.
Yeah.
Most of those folks.
We were talking about Matt Damon, and I don't think we have to play it. He gives this speech at the end of the movie, essentially.
Oh my God.
And it was so pretentious, but it was supposed to really sum everything up about, greed and this and that. And I didn't understand a word of it. It meant nothing, but he delivered it like, here's my Oscar moment, people. And I was like, oh, Matt Damon, you should have run screaming.
Do you think that because it's Soderbergh that people read something and they go, God, this doesn't make any sense. Like, Steven, can you explain it to me? And then nobody critiques it or gives notes. And then they read it and they read it and they read it. And then they have that aha moment where they're like, I get it. And then they deliver it because they're like, I get it. But they don't remember that the very first time you read it, you were like, I don't get it. You know what I mean?
I definitely think that. Or I think they never get it, but they're like, don't worry about it. It's coming across. I'm getting it.
I really feel bad for the not name actors that you were referring to.
Sure.
Because I feel like every single one of them was like, oh my God, I'm in a Steven Soderbergh movie opposite Don Cheadle and fucking Benicio del Toro. This thing's gonna launch me. And I did not see any standout anything. I thought everybody was terrible.
Everybody.
Even right?
Yep.
And I felt bad for them because I was like, oh God, you need guidance or you need to be in a different movie or like it actually made everybody look amateurish. It wasn't, and that made me go, they must have spent all the money on that star-studded cast, right? And Steven Soderbergh. They must have given all the money away.
Money was spent on the sets, good-looking sets, nice old cars.
I came awake at the credits because I was like, oh my God, look at all the people. Everybody had an assistant. Like the key grip had an assistant key grip. It was insane. There were dialect coaches and there was an athletics coach for Benicio del Toro, like not athletics, but some sort
drinking
of
coach. I think you mean
how to
drinking
move physically.
Coach.
He had a guy teaching him like how to move in an athletic way. I don't even remember that scene. There were so many people worked on this movie, and God bless them. Thank you for reviving the American economy with this single film. But it was like crazy, just crazy.
Yeah.
Because, I just did a movie with 4 people. So
right. The one positive, there was some really fun, atmospheric, timely music. And Pete, if you could play 4738. Get me my beret and my cigarello. That music was so, right? It's like you're in like a French beat jazz club. And there was some fun music for every scene that needed good dialogue or stakes or things to care about. Instead, they had some fun music.
I don't know if it was the same composer, but I will say that there were a couple of the dramatic scenes that I was like, ugh, it was not showing up on the screen, and the score was like, dun dun, go 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 go, dun dun dun, go go go, and I'm like, it's not the ga 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 moment yet, guy. You can't make that music yet. Even if you feel that's how it should be in the story, that's not what is going on the screen.
Right. This was what made Soderbergh come out of retirement, I guess. Like, come on, why? And do they all get together and they this is a gang that has mostly worked together before, and they're all like, yeah, but it'll be great. We'll all be together again. But it didn't have teeth.
Well, it's interesting, too, the choices that he made, the weird shots and I also thought the sound was funky. It was such a in the weeds kind of thing. But to me, the sound was very echoey. Again, could have been my television speakers. Maybe they're crappy.
For some of the movie, I had the HBO narrator on for the sight impaired, which I couldn't figure out how to turn off. And I'm like, what do I care? So they're like, a car pulls up to a home. 2 men get out of the car, slamming the car door. One looks at the other. And I'm like,
you're really...
Mostly I'm like, how come I'm not getting that voiceover job? I'm good at it, right?
Yeah, you're really good. Next time I watch a movie, I want you to come over and just do that.
Oh my God, I would be so honored.
I would love that. Yeah, I could use that. You could nudge me when I start falling asleep.
Absolutely. Get the cattle prod. All right. Give it some man jobs and let's talk about stuff we love and feel good about.
It was so pretty. They tried so hard. I'm going to give it a 2. 2 man jobs.
Matt Damon gets a man job because he deserves one.
Anytime, Matt. Just call us. You know where to find us.
And that's the only man job I want to give it. So I'm going to give it 1.5 man jobs.
Do you not love Don Cheadle?
I always loved Don Cheadle. I found this to be embarrassing for him.
I thought he was at least interesting. Except that scene. I'm sorry. That scene where he goes and there's a woman and he's been out of jail and she has a suitcase. I could not tell if that was his sister or his ex-girlfriend or his ex-wife or his mom. It wasn't his mom, but I could not figure out at all what that was. But anyway, I didn't know. I was so lost, but I thought it's because of me, because half the time we watch those caper movies and I'm always like, wait, and Patrick has to pause it and explain it to me because I'm dumb but very pretty. So I thought maybe it was me. So there you go. You also did not get what was going on.
Correct.
Good for us.
But if anybody understood it and liked it and wants to explain that, please reach out on Instagram at Mandy_Kaplan_Clavens.
Or at MandyFab on Instagram. And yeah,
No,
please explain
MandyFab1.
this.
Aren't you MandyFab1?
No, why not?
Oh.
Jesus
Who
Christ.
have I been Instagramming
Have
all
you
this
been
time?
have you been listening to me? Do you even listen to these podcasts?
As little as
No.
possible. All right, moving on.
Man, you know I love the Audible, right?
As do I. Who doesn't?
Yeah. This week I have a recommendation. I'm going to invite everyone to take a journey with me because there is a book on Audible that I think everyone needs. Green Lights by Matthew McConaughey. All right. Yeah. No, he has apparently discovered that he knows a few things and he's gone over his diaries. And these are just things that he's been journaling about the last several years. And he's going to share them with us, and he narrates it. And he's a very sexy man, but I think he's very funny. I don't know why. I love confident people, but his self-confidence makes me giggle. So it's either going to rock your ever-loving world or it'll be hilarious. And I invite you to get it. And how would I get it on Audible, man?
I'm glad you asked. It sounds like pure hell to me. But if you're interested in that or trying anything on Audible, where they have fantastic audio content, podcasts, novels, self-help, biographies, memoirs, it's all there. audibletrial.com/mandemic gets you a free trial. You pick a book, you download it, you get to keep that title whether or not you continue your relationship with Audible.
30 days. It's an amazing trial. It really is great. Plenty of time to read a journal entry.
Yeah. You can listen on all your devices. It saves your place. Audible takes care of you.
It's the lazy man's entertainment. And no offense, Audible. I'm as a very comfortable, lazy person. I say that as a compliment.
I'm going to go to audibletrial.com/mandemic and I'm going to get naked, get my bongos, and download Matthew McConaughey's book.
Oh, he'd be so happy to hear that. What the hell is going on is the question.
I am an amazing mom.
Oh, God, yeah.
And I love my child very much. And I care about his cultural enrichment and his humanity. And so I read books
we get it.
to him.
Oh, God, come on.
I do. Even though he can read, he's an avid reader by himself because he's perfect in every way. But then I choose books that
Does
I'm
he
like,
listen to this? Is that why you're saying all this? Because I don't. Anyway, go ahead.
no, I just want everybody to know my child is perfect. And so am I. So I choose books that I want to read to him. That it started last summer with To Kill a Mockingbird. I explained the George Floyd situation to him. And then we read that as an introduction to how to discuss race and injustice in America. And then we've read several other of that ilk that I can highly recommend. And then I thought, why do I keep choosing really heartbreaking books, about things that are unjust and wrong? I'm going to choose.
You're a lot of fun. Yeah,
I know, right? So I'm going to pick a book that I loved as a kid and I'm going to read it to him. And when I was his age, I read it over and over and over. It is called Hanging Out with Cece by Francine Pascal. She wrote all the Sweet Valley High books, but this was not a Sweet Valley High book.
Oh.
This book, like the basic premise is a 13-year-old girl who hates her mom because her mom doesn't get her and she keeps getting in trouble at school. She goes to visit her relatives, gets on a train, bumps her head on the train, and travels back in time to when her mom was her age, meets up with her mom back in the 40s. This book was from the 70s. So now she's in the 1940s. Her mom is just as rebellious and just as much of a fuck up as she is. They run around and get in trouble. And then she wakes up on the train and is like, wait, was that a dream or was I really back in time? And then when she's home, spoiler alert, she finds things in the house. Like she finds proof of all of that being true from the 40s. So you never know, like, did she travel in time? Was it a dream? It's all really cool. I loved this book as a kid. I started reading it. So help me. It was so inappropriate. I had no idea. So I'm like chatting, I'm reading to Casey and he's like, what does put out mean? Why does that boy want her to put out? What is that? So I'm explaining some of it, right? And then there's
hey, he's going to need to know that. You really should have explained that to him.
I showed him. Oh.
Well, there's so many videos you can find on YouTube now. It's like, that's just, they make parenting easy. Go ahead.
Yeah. So it was really funny because I'm like, okay, so in this book, Casey, honey, they're going to smoke marijuana. And he's like, Mom, I know what marijuana is. It's okay. I'm like, okay. Oh, they're also going to make references to like rape and perverts and pedophilia. And I just had to like temper some of the things that, like most of it I am willing to talk about and explain. Some of it I was like, I'm just going to skip that paragraph. And after a while, Casey looked green. He's like, yeah, please just skip the paragraph. He loved the story, but it makes me question like, why was I allowed to read this and why I read this when I was 10 and 11 over and over and over? It has a lot of swear words, a lot of inappropriate stuff. That's my story.
You know, I run into this a lot, actually.
Do you?
Yeah, because I don't think anybody was monitoring anything when I was a kid. And so I very often go, like I was allowed to, well, actually, my mom was really strict when I was super young, like 6, 7, 8, you know? And then we moved to a ranch and it was just like, you know, it was a big deal that I got to watch like Dukes of Hazzard, you know?
Oh, God, love you.
Well, you know. And by the way, well, anyway, it doesn't matter. I was a Tom Wopat girl. Most people were the Bo Schneider. What was his name? Bo Schneider?
Bo Duke. You like Luke Duke.
Yeah. But who played Bo Duke?
John Schneider.
John Schneider, not Bo Schneider. Okay, yeah. John Schneider. Yeah. I was always the Luke Duke gal because
of course you were.
He was attainable. Like I was never going to be in a Bo Duke league.
But you married a Bo Duke.
I know, but I never wanted a Bo Duke. I didn't think a Bo Duke was possible for me, but I married a
lay down and let's talk about that. Let's delve. Let's go there. Let's figure out what your esteem issues are from your childhood.
But I can tell you honestly, I was not monitored and I watched Fast Times at Ridgemont High.
Oh, that'll do it.
Yeah. And I know for a fact that I was like, that's funny, not really understanding what I was doing or what it all meant. But I definitely went to my school, my elementary school, or maybe it was junior high, but I feel like it was elementary. And we had fudgesicles. That was a dessert that you got. And I definitely showed the girls the scene where she gives a blowjob on a
carrot.
Popsicle or what? On a carrot. Okay. Yeah. But I had a fudgesicle and I was like, I don't know. It's something like this. It's from this really funny movie I saw. And the boys were looking at me like I had 3 heads. No pun intended. It was all like, it was a really awkward moment. But I didn't know I kind of knew it was maybe sexy, but I didn't know exactly what I was doing, giving head to a fudgesicle in my elementary school cafeteria. Yeah. And then I got so nervous. I think somebody dared me to eat all the peanut butter. There's like a cup of peanut butter and I ate it and I threw up. Like that was a great time in my life. It was a wonderful day. Yeah.
Wow.
But I had to divert from the giving a Hummer to a fudgesicle.
Yeah.
So anyway.
No.
I do think it's good to sort of, you know, be careful, like let kids seek that stuff out. But for when we were kids, it was all just there.
It was a free for all.
Oh my God.
Yeah. I was
naughty, crazy stuff.
I was running a brothel by the time I was 9, 10. Yeah.
By the way, has anybody optioned the rights to that book? Because that would make a great movie or series. That would
Hanging Out with Cece?
Yes.
No, I know. I was thinking it as I was reading it. I'm going to look into it.
Yes, you should. It's incredible. You should
stop yelling at me. I just said I'm going to.
Well, why are you still on this stupid podcast? Call your agent. Jesus Christ.
What are you into this week, man?
Oh my God. I don't know if you're going to love it or hate it, but I finally broke the Smartless barrier and I've been listening to Smartless.
Oh,
and
welcome.
It's a podcast with Jason Bateman and Sean Hayes and the other guy.
Will Arnett.
No, I'm kidding. Will Arnett. And here is, I will say, I think they're all hilariously funny. I enjoy them immensely. I like to pretend that I have the same careers that they have and that we're all buddies hanging out. It makes me feel really good. But one thing I will say that has been the big lesson of Smartless this week is don't believe all the gossip you hear. Remember when we were going to watch the Kevin Hart movie? And I'm going to be honest, there was a part of me that I was like, I don't know if I'm supposed to like a Kevin Hart movie because I've heard shit about him, right?
Okay.
I've heard bad things about him. And so I was a little bit arm's length with that. So I didn't maybe enjoy that Kevin Hart movie as much as I might have if I hadn't believed. So there's been shit talk about Will Arnett for sure. There's been shit talk about Mitch Hurwitz. I've heard nightmare stories about him. And then I listened to this episode and they are fucking delightful.
Right.
They're funny and charming and generous and talk about actors in this great way. And I know
Don't you think shitty people can turn that on? Ellen, I'm looking at you.
Ha!
Right?
I don't think that any person is either kind or shitty.
Right.
I think we are all capable of all of it. And I think if you hear someone's experience, like, if you meet Will Arnett on a bad day, like I have a friend who had a bad experience with one of my friends a long, long time ago. Like not oh my God, call the cops or they stole money, they still owe me money. But like maybe had too much to drink on a date and wanted to get with me. And I found that disrespectful. But it wasn't like, it wasn't like it was just like I want to get with you. I'm not going to get with you. And then had an opinion about him, which is totally fine. But it wasn't like, there was no crime committed. It wasn't a thing.
Sure.
But then for years, it's like there's no chance that he is one of the most delightful, kind, sweet. I knew him when he was single and he was a little lost and he did drink a bit much and he's not that guy anymore. Mm-hmm. And it's interesting that like there's no allowance for, somebody can change. He's actually one of the most generous, kind, interesting, cool people. Mm-hmm. It's not that you have to forgive. You don't have to, but you can't form an opinion on someone based on a bad experience.
Sometimes you can. I can be black and white. I'm guilty of that.
But you can't tell me that someone's a bad person just because you had a bad experience with them.
Depends on how bad that experience was and how it made me feel. And if I felt unsafe or violated, yeah, I could say that. But if it was just an awkward encounter, no, we've all had awkward encounters.
You have not done anything shitty in your life. You're perfect. I mean, I think we established that earlier with the parenting thing, and now your child's perfect. Mm-hmm. So lucky you, you know what I mean? Mm-hmm. My kids are born to be assholes. And because I'm an asshole, their father's an asshole. We were horrible people for such a long time.
None of this is true.
No, it is true. We were both horrible. We have both done the things that you're saying. Like there's definitely people on the planet that could go, oh, that Mandy Fabian, she's a fucking asshole. And I'm not, but I have done things that people could presume to be terrible. So, I'm just saying.
I'd like a typed list by the end of the day. I don't believe you.
Okay. Reach out to us on @MandyFab. Oh, you're probably not following me if you're one of the people that hates me. Right. So that's not going to work out. But
anyway, to circle back, you're saying that now you have a different sense of Bateman and Will Arnett and Sean Hayes, and that makes you think like, they are multifaceted and you've had a grudge that maybe wasn't fair.
I had a grudge based on something somebody else said about somebody. Mm-hmm. And I was like, well, that's really shitty of me. Like maybe he was going through a bad time. Maybe he was a mean drunk. Maybe he was stressful. Maybe he did become a narcissistic egomaniac for a week.
They cop,
you know what I mean?
They cop to it. Not Sean Hayes, but Will Arnett and Jason Bateman cop to having issues with substances and being different guys. Who they are now is delightful for the most part, and they can
I love it.
They get such great guests, although sometimes it just turns into not a sausage fest, but just a very inside, like, oh, we all know each other, we're all glamorous, we've all worked together. And that interests me less than when they bring on somebody that they just, like, they had Neil deGrasse Tyson, and like that was interesting to me because they're just fans of and wanted to explore somebody's career. And
no, I totally disagree. I love that insider shit because I have this fantasy that I'm just as powerful and famous and successful as they are. Like it lets me live the dream. Like we're all just hanging out talking about how rich and famous we are. I fucking love it. I want them to keep talking about it. I love every second of it.
I do not. And then you come here and I bring you right back down to reality, don't I?
But they were talking about something like a casting couch in one of the things, and they were making jokes about it. And they said, oh, you can't joke about that. Mm-hmm. And I thought of you saying, when do we get to make jokes about things?
Right.
And I was like, I, as a woman, was sitting there going, I don't know. you can make jokes. If you're making fun of this idea that that's okay,
Right.
that's good. You should make fun of that. If you're making a joke like, isn't it great that we get to bang girls from Ohio who want to be stars? That's not so funny.
Right.
But, if you're making fun of something because it's...
Sorry, Ohio. Terribly sorry to the state of Ohio.
There's
None of the
a
opinions
bus-
expressed on the Mandys represent our parent company.
There's a bus that arrives every day, 12:30, the Van Nuys Amtrak station. You should check it out.
Okay. We are going to roll our credits and then we're going to tell the people what's coming up after.
It's so exciting. I can't wait.
Roll them. Mandemic Mondays is a production of True Story FM. Engineering by Pete Wright. Yay! Music by Ian Post. Woohoo! Find the show at truestory.fm/Mandemic. And if your podcast app allows ratings and reviews, please consider doing that for us too. And don't forget to subscribe. All right, man, tell the people what we're doing the next couple of months.
We're done with season 1.
We did it. We did a season.
Yeah. So satisfying. And we're going to come back bigger and better than ever.
Yes.
And
season 2 starting in September.
Might change up a little bit of what we're talking about. A little bit. Not much, but, maybe not just Netflix. Maybe it'll be some other things.
Oh, it's going to be so good.
Yeah.
So many more things. And hopefully we will be past the pandemic truly and able to just, focus on more pop culture and less survival. Just what we're doing for fun and entertainment and to enrich our lives.
Yes. Yes, we will.
I know what I'm going to be doing, which is listening to all the episodes from season 1 of Mandemic Mondays over and over.
Well, when you're perfect, why wouldn't you want to bask in the glow of that,
On that note, I love ya.
Love you too.
Have a wicked good summer.
I will. I'll see you on the other side.
All right.